Andrew. It's so good to have you today. Thank you so much for joining me today for an interview. So I've known you kind of informally, I guess, for a couple of years now, but I think this is the first time I've had a full-on conversation with you all to myself. Yep. So I'm feeling very honoured.
Ditto.
And now you describe yourself as a leader in operations and people, but talk to us about what that actually means.
Yeah, so good to be here, Rebecca. Thank you, and it's lovely to finally meet you properly. So leader in operations and people. I think one of the things that through my, that dreaded word, that six-letter word called career, through the work that I've done over the period I've been on this planet, a lot of my work has been around two key things. One, helping businesses be more able to deliver whatever it is they're trying to do, which is an operational context. And the other one is people. I love people. I think they're both just wonderfully amazing. Often make the comment they're both beautiful and broken at the same time, which makes them so interesting. So for me, when I talk about being a leader in operations and people, I've held senior roles in both aspects of organisations, which also gives me a unique platform to be able to sometimes provide that level of interpreter. As such, I'm bilingual, maybe multilingual, being able to talk into both dynamics of an organisation. Because what I do find with a lot of businesses and even people, they come with the best of intent, but they get lost in acronyms, language, or otherwise, where they are actually looking for the same thing, but they just can't understand each other. Yeah. So that's kind of when I talk about that. It's the ability to look at both sides, meaningful work to improve the context of your people, but understanding there's still a business that needs to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've written this book, which I'm fascinated by the title because it's called Create the Shift Book 1, which says to me there's more to come.
Yes.
So this is book 1. What's your plan? How many are in this series, or have you not got that far yet?
No, I just threw it out there and thought, what the heck? No, it is in a series. So the model that sits inside of it, which they can see obviously through the lockdown library, there is a model in there which talks about 3 elements, which is you, business, and market. And each one of those elements is a book that will be discussed. So right now we start with the you because it was the most, in my space, is always the most important thing is the person. And the other 2 are coming. And yes, I remember when I first showed my wife the cover and her first comment was, not, wow, that's awesome, was, wow, book 1, are you doing another one? So yeah, we are. And it's we're still in the process of that at the moment.
So what inspired you to write this book?
I think, so there's lots of great books out there. There's a plethora of them and they are amazing. I think one of the things that I often saw though was a lot of information and a lot of content and not necessarily helping people to be able to help have the conversations they need to have with themselves. Yeah. This book has been very deliberately written and people who get to know me often experience the fact that when we talk, part of my job is to, partly mentor, partly coach what I do with clients. And that balance, the book is written in a similar balance. Some wisdom that might be helpful, not always mine, far from it. There's a lot of amazing people out with a lot of wisdom. But it's a conversation where the individual, the person who's reading it, can actually start having their own conversation with themselves, which is why the create the shift piece, often we hear these really cool words and we probably get a little sick of them at the moment. Things like pivot, makes me, pivot, pirouette and lots of other things. For me, that was always lacking in effort. Pivot's easy, is turn, you twist and away you go again, sort of the agile methodology. For me, I think often that disrespects the amount of effort that needs to happen. And a shift is effortful. There is energy, there is time, it's harder. It's not soft and easy. It's actually quite a difficult piece. And it's important though. When we shift house and we shift, even if we're shifting bank accounts, like it's really hard work, to try and do that. So shift was why that word was there. It's all about helping individuals create their shift.
So who's it for? Who are the people that you want to read this book?
Yeah, so it's a book that anyone can pick up and read, and I think they'd find something useful. And the real target is the kind of clients that I normally work with, which are senior executives, C-suite type people who are often so busy working on the business and being distracted by all the complexity that they have to manage and or lead, that they don't think about how they're leading themselves, managing themselves, and or how that is how they're leading and managing is being represented forward. So it's really that they're the sweet spot. But again, I think most people who've had the chance to read it, most people, can't speak for everybody, but everyone who's sort of talked to me has said, look, it's just great. There's been things that has made me think about the world differently, which is the purpose. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess it resonates well with me because the work that I do is around continuous improvement, quality, and systems. And again, I focus the same as you do. You've got to start with yourself. You can't build these great systems if you yourself are not in the right place. So I love the fact that you focused the first book on you, the individual, because we've all got that potential, I think, to be leaders, even if it's not at work.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a leader in all of us. And I'm lucky I get to work with a lot of leaders who are also senior leaders. And look, they're just people too. And they're dealing with all the challenges and complexities that everyone else is. But often we as a society don't give them the space to deal with that or work with that. And they often don't give themselves the space either, or the permission to do that, which is partly this is helping them become a better version of themselves.
And a perfect timing at the moment. I guess a lot of leaders are finding themselves in leadership positions that they perhaps don't want, having to make decisions they never thought they would have to make. So it's probably a really timely book.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And it was never, didn't plan this one. But again, I think it's useful because if you look back at what COVID is, something that's topical at the minute, there's always a complexity that people are dealing with. And if you think back through hundreds of years, there's always things that are happening which cause challenge or complexity. And with our world accelerating, I don't think that's going to go away. And I think the solution sits inside of each of us. One of the comments I make inside the book and to others is, I honestly believe everybody has the most amazing light inside of them. The challenge we have is the biggest shadow can be cast if we stand in the way of the light. So this book and the work I do is about helping people hop out of the light so they can shine better, because people are truly amazing. So, So what's one thing that people can take away today? What's one thing they can start doing to shine that light right now? Well, I think I like your question. It's really good. The one thing, it's actually a piece that's inside the book, which is a process, and it's something really simple and easy, which I can explain to some degree, and grab the book and read it, will help a bit more. But it's about the one thing. I think often amongst all the complexity that we deal with, and the most recent and the one that's still ongoing is an example of it, there's so much stuff coming at us. You would see this in your work, people trying to do everything at once and continuous improvement. They've got a dozen actions or activities. Like, to me, the work is, let's have a look at all those things, let's quantify them, but let's then focus on what's the one thing you can do. Let's take all the noise away. Let's take away the things that are less important and focus on what's truly important. We have a process there and how to do that. It's a simple question around what is the one thing that you can be working on. So my advice to people, my offer to people would be, amongst all of the noise that's going on, reduce the complexity down to simple things that you can get after. Now, the question itself might be quite complex and hard, but it's just the one thing you're working on. That sort of lies through the whole book. It's about removing noise and focusing down. Really important. And it is something that we're all need to get better at. I think we tend to revel in the busy and having the big to-do lists and lots of priorities. But when you do narrow it down and you get that clarity, life is much easier. When you walk into a client's office, and I've had similar myself, you walk in and see the whiteboard full of stuff, and you just, where do you begin? Interesting conversations around, so what up here really matters? Why are you creating confusion in your space versus getting after one or two things? In my view, one thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. Yeah. And you can start to build success. I was going to say, you often find that once you've tackled one thing, some other things that you thought were important before tend to disappear. Agreed. Yeah, and because the clarity comes as well, and you're also feeling that, like, when you get stuck and you've got lots of things and you're not succeeding at any well, or not at all maybe, that creates a really interesting psychology and behaviour in your head and your heart. Just get very distracted or downhearted. Versus delivering one thing, succeeding at it, and that momentum. And I often see it a lot with people. They get to this really frustrated, stuck place. Let's clear the decks, get back to doing one thing, and then over time they're back rolling faster than they ran before, You know, it's the old slow down to speed up. It's that
Yeah.
sort of methodology.
Fantastic. And so how do people get in touch with you, Andrew, if they want to work with you?
So website, andrewdeering.com. I make it pretty easy. There's somewhere they can go to, definitely. LinkedIn, I'm always on. I'm always open for a conversation. People, most days I'm posting, as are you, with the wisdom that you bring as well, Rebecca. They're probably the big two pieces. Happy to provide any details or otherwise. So we do work, or myself and I have two parts to me. One is the work I do with leaders, and another part is I have a team that we do work with organisations for a similar way. But again, my website's the best place to jump into, and would love, always open for a conversation. Exploration, discovery is always fascinating.
Brilliant. Well, I think it's definitely a time where anybody in a leadership role needs that support and needs to be the best that they can be. And I'm very excited about the next 2 books as well. So if the lockdown library's still going, we'll snap all those as well.
Done. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Gladly.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's been awesome to talk to you, and thank you so much again for generously giving us your book.
Pleasure, Rebecca, and thanks for the time. It's I love listening to your work and reading about what you do as well. I think organisations, both of us have this beautiful place where we can serve organisations really powerfully. So it's good.
Thank you. Thank you. You
Cheers.
take care. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank
Bye.
you.